So good evening, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday evening meditation, coming to you from Vajrayana Institute. So I trust everybody is well and staying safe. And if you like the cold, you're probably very happy now. Stay warm. So we usually begin with settling the body and getting rid of any tension in the body before we move into the meditation. So make sure that you're comfortable. Doesn't matter whether you sit on a chair or on a cushion on the floor, as long as your spine is straight. And it's important to feel relaxed and comfortable. So let's scan the body for any areas of tension. Because if we're holding tension in our bodies, it affects our mind and it makes it harder to meditate. So let's start with the crown of our heads. The crown of our head. Moving down over the forehead. Being aware of the temples. Your eyes, all those little muscles around the eyes. Just relaxing, releasing. Moving down the face over the cheekbones to the mouth. Relaxing your jaws. Your chin. Feeling the whole face relaxed and peaceful. Returning to the top of the head and moving down the back of the head to the base of the skull. Relaxing the neck. Coming to the tops of the shoulders. I think this is the favourite spot for most of us as far as tension goes. So you might want to raise your shoulders up and drop them a few times. Be aware of the shoulder blades. And travel down the backbone to the base of the spine. Be aware of the contact with your buttocks and the chair or the cushion. Feel the strength and stability of the spine. Come back to the tops of the shoulders. And let's travel down the front of the body top of the chest, soft, spacious, relaxed. Diaphragm, belly, whole pelvic area. And any time you notice any tension in the body, as you breathe out, imagine that the tension leaves the body with the out-breath. And travelling from the hip joints to the knees. And the knees to the ankles. Tops of the feet, soles of the feet. All the way to the tips of the toes. Enjoying the feeling of the body relaxed, still, stable. Coming again to the shoulders, moving down to the elbows, wrists, tops of the hands and palms of the hands, all the way to the fingertips. Continuously checking and releasing tension wherever you find it. And now be aware of the whole body, from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. Just double checking for any tension spots you may have missed. Breathing into them, and as you breathe out, feel the tension leave your body. And just sit for a little while, enjoying the body still, peaceful, supported, so that some light comes in and counters our tendency to fall asleep, which happens when we shut our eyes. So you can experiment with this, having your eyes slightly open. If you find that difficult, it's okay to shut your eyes. Your spine should be straight, your shoulders back and down, your hands resting either right on top of the left, with thumbs lightly touching just below your navel, or palm down on your thighs or your knees, whichever is the most comfortable. Your tongue should be resting behind your top teeth, and you can have your mouth just slightly open. If you're sitting on a cushion and you're able to sit in full lotus or half lotus, that's very good, but certainly not compulsory. So once we've adjusted our posture, we'll move into the breathing meditation. And our only task here is to keep the awareness on the breath. So you can focus on the breath entering and leaving the nostrils, which is the most common way of doing the breathing meditation. But you can also focus on the rise and the fall of the abdomen. And this is more grounding if you have a session where you feel your mind is very agitated. It's good to bring the awareness down to the abdomen. But whichever point of focus you choose, stay with that for the whole of the session. And before we move into it, let's set a very positive motivation for meditating this evening. Either the bodhicitta motivation, if you have bodhisattva vows, and otherwise let's open our hearts to all our brothers and sisters on this planet and do this meditation with a wish that whatever benefit we get from it, it will flow on to everybody that we come into contact with. So making sure we're moving away from the self-centered, selfish mind, which causes so many problems in the world. So bringing the awareness to the breath. So your body is still and relaxed, and your mind is alert and aware. So the moment your mind wanders away from the breath, bring the awareness back without judgment or criticism. the more we're able to stay focused on the breath, the less likely we are to be distracted. Allow that focus to be sharp, but again, don't bring tension into it, if you can help it. So it's like being absorbed in an exciting movie or a wonderful book, and somebody knocks on the door, you may not even notice. And here, when the thoughts figuratively knock on the door, we don't open the door and run after them. And just keep bringing the awareness back to the breath. And the two other techniques that may help with your focus is labeling the thoughts, and then they kind of pop like a balloon. So you can label them remembering, planning, and so on. Worrying. And then there's the counting of the breaths. So counting one cycle of in-breath and out-breath as one. In-breath, out-breath, two. In-breath, out-breath, three. Going up to 10. But each time you get distracted, even if you're at 6 or 7, start again at 1. So you can try these different ways of staying focused and see what works best for you. There's no particular right or wrong. So whatever works for you is right for you. a little stretch if you need to. So meditation in Buddhism is about calming the mind and also training the mind. So when we do breathing meditation, we're teaching the mind to be calm and focused. And then using that calm, focused mind, we can use that to understand the mind and to be more in control of what is happening in our minds. Now, the Buddha said that one of the main causes of our suffering are the delusions in our mind. And last week we looked at the delusion of attachment, which is very, very different from love, loving kindness. Loving kindness is the wish for beings to be happy. And attachment is very much the wish for other beings to make us happy. Or it's also a mistaken belief that possessing certain objects or possessing another person is going to make us happy. So it's a very distorted mind that is not seeing things clearly as they are. And when we have very strong attachment, we suffer. So we're now going to look at the delusion of anger. So anger is deluded because it's actually the opposite of attachment. Attachment exaggerates the good qualities of the object or of the person, and then we believe that possessing that is going to make us happy, and we can't stand for the object of attachment to be criticized, and we simply do not see the object of attachment in the way it actually appears. So with anger, we want to be separated from whatever it is we're angry about. With attachment, we don't want to be separated. With anger, we want to be separated. We want to get away from it. Yeah? And it's also the attitude of wanting to harm. So if we have the mind of anger, we're not seeing, usually we're angry with people, we're not seeing that person as they are. We're just recalling every single thing they ever did that annoyed us. Very distorted picture. So most of our anger is directed toward other people. But we can also be angry at ourselves or at inanimate objects. And anger ranges from a feeling of irritation about the way someone drinks their tea, for example, to the powerful hatred that leads to physical violence or even murder. It's usually related to attachment. As one teacher has pointed out, anger is the response when attachment doesn't get what it wants. Anger is the very opposite of patience, tolerance, compassion, and love. It is a distorted conception, a mistaken way of reacting to things, a delusion, and it brings only problems and unhappiness, not the results we want. It disturbs our mind and causes us to hurt others through our actions and our words. And it is not an intelligent, skillful way to react in any situation. So just check. Think about how you felt when you were angry. The Buddha said not to believe anything. So check and see that state of mind, was it all beneficial? How does it feel when anger disturbs our minds? So patience, the opposite of anger, is a very beneficial state of mind because it enables us to accept difficulties with a minimum of suffering. But patience has to be learned. And the way to develop it is by practicing the remedies to anger. The faults of anger are much easier to recognize than those of attachment. Nevertheless, anger is very difficult to deal with. Part of the problem is our unwillingness even to admit that we have it. Or, if we do recognize our anger, to admit that it is a fault. We may want to be peaceful and kind, but in our efforts we probably suppress feelings of dislike, annoyance, and resentment, which are the more subtle aspects of anger. This is no solution. The emotions are still there, brewing below the surface of our mind, making us tense and nervous and affecting other people. Another mistaken approach is to see anger as a natural energy that should not be restrained but expressed whenever it arises. This may well relieve us of the immediate tension of our emotions and thus appear to be a skillful way of handling anger. But again, it is no solution. We need only look at the short-term effects, how it disturbs ourselves and others, and the long-term, becoming habitually angry, to see that it is not at all useful or intelligent to give in to anger. The truly skillful approach is to recognize the anger or irritation as it arises, keep it within our mind, and deal with it there. Catching it when we first feel it is itself enough to diffuse much of the anger energy. Then we should examine the emotion from many angles. What are its causes? What do we hope to achieve by it? How do we view the situation? Having a clear understanding of anger gives us a firmer hold on it, because when we see how unreasonable it is, we are less likely to get involved in it. Anger distorts our view of things. So after examining it, we should apply an antidote. However, this is not easy. The energy of anger is very powerful, and we are not in the habit of trying to control or transform it. It is useful to use these methods over and over again in meditation, working with past experience of anger or imagined situations. Then, when anger occurs in our day-to-day relationships, we can bring to mind whatever insights we have developed in our practice sessions and try to avoid following the old familiar route of getting angry. We won't always be successful. Sometimes minutes, hours, or days go by before we even realize that we got angry and hurt somebody. But it is never too late to do something about it. Sit down, recall the situation, recognize what went wrong, and figure out how to avoid the same mistakes again. We can also do a purification practice to remedy the karma created and apologize to the person we hurt. The same practices can be done to resolve problems we had years before. There is no reason to feel discouraged if anger continues to arise strongly. It takes time to break powerful habits, and the important thing is to want and try to work on it. The first thing we can do is contemplate the faults or disadvantages of anger so that you become convinced that it's harmful rather than helpful, and therefore not something you want to indulge in. First of all, look at the immediate effects of anger on your mind and body. What is it like being angry? Is your mind peaceful and happy, or disturbed and discontented? Are you able to think clearly and make intelligent decisions? Or does your thinking become confused and irrational? And how does it affect your body? Do you feel calm and relaxed, or agitated and tense? Scientific studies have shown that anger is a significant cause of certain health problems, such as heart disease and cancer, as well as of premature death. How does your anger affect the people around you? If you express your anger in words and actions, what is the result? It may cause you to hurt people you love and damage cherished relationships. But even the anger directed at your enemies, those who you think deserve to be hurt, may come back at you later. So is that the wisest way of dealing with them? There are more subtle, less obvious effects of anger on our psyche. In terms of karma, getting angry leaves imprints on our mind that will bring painful experiences in the future, which means more suffering. It also destroys a lot of our good karma that we have worked so hard to accumulate. And it becomes a major obstacle to cultivating the positive qualities of love, compassion, and wisdom, and so to make progress on the spiritual path. Recognize the harmful results of anger and resolve not to let your mind be taken over by it, and instead learn ways of diffusing it. The second point is to remember karma, which means cause and effect. If someone harms you in some way, by being abusive or unfriendly or cheating or stealing from you or wrecking your belongings, and it seems you have done nothing to deserve it, check again. According to Buddhism, any misfortune that comes our way is the result of harmful actions that we created in the past, in this life and other lives. So we reap what we have sown. When we can see our problems in this light, we will be better able to accept and take responsibility for them rather than dump the blame on others. So here it's important not to think of karma as punishment. It's simply cause and effect. Also, if we understand that getting angry and retaliating will just bring us more problems in the future, we'll resolve to be more patient and we'll be more careful about the karma we create. Another method for dealing with people who hurt or annoy you is to put yourself in their place. Try to see the situation from their point of view. What is driving them to behave in this way? Is their state of mind peaceful and happy, or confused, miserable, and uncontrolled? They are human just like you, with problems and worries, trying to be happy and make the best of life. Recall your own experiences of being angry and unkind to get a better idea of what they are going through. Also, consider what the outcome will be if they continue to act in deluded ways. Will they be happy and satisfied? Or are they creating more trouble and suffering for themselves? If we really understand others' confusion and pain, we'll be less likely to react with anger, which would just give them even more suffering. So then we can begin to regard them with compassion. Another point is the teachings say that we would not see faults in others if we did not have those faults in ourselves. As the saying goes, it takes one to know one. Other people are therefore like mirrors, showing us what we need to work on in ourselves. Check exactly what it is that you dislike or are angry at in the other person. Then look into yourself and see if you can find the same thing or something similar. It may be obvious. You might easily remember having done the same thing yourself or realize you have the same bad habit. But in some cases, you may need to look deeper. It could be a quality you have long suppressed, regarding it as wrong and unacceptable, and that is where the problem lies. Because you don't accept that part of yourself, you cannot accept it in others. And so you feel angry when you see it. The solution is to learn to accept that behavior or quality in yourself. Accepting doesn't mean condoning it and thinking you can be that way all you want. It means being honest and acknowledging the existence of that fault. But at the same time, knowing you can work on decreasing and eventually overcoming it. Being more accepting and compassionate about our own shortcomings will enable us to be more accepting and compassionate towards others. The next point to think about is that anger is more likely to arise in our mind when we are unhappy or dissatisfied. If you notice yourself getting irritated and angry about even small things, sit down and check what's going on in the deeper levels of your mind. Are you feeling dissatisfied about something? Are there unhappy, critical thoughts about yourself or aspects of your life? Are you focusing more on the negative side of things rather than the positive? There are good things about yourself and your life, and if you pay more attention to these, your mind will be happier and more satisfied, and you will be less likely to react with anger, even when bigger problems occur. Also, when anger arises, turn your attention within and investigate the I, capital I, that is angry. Analyze where and how it exists. Apply whatever understanding of emptiness you have. Investigate the object of your anger also. Does it exist in the solid and definite way that appears to you? If the person you are angry at is really so bad and unlikable from their own side, independent of how your mind perceives them, then they would appear that way to everyone. Is that true? Or are there people who like and admire that person? Try to see that the situation is like a dream. Although it seems very real at the moment, from your point of view at a later time, even tomorrow, it could appear distant and faded, a mere memory. Difficult situations are usually the most productive in terms of spiritual growth. Thus, someone who arouses our anger is giving us a chance to learn that we still have work to do. We might think we've come a long way in understanding and controlling our mind, and that we are fairly peaceful now. But all of a sudden, anger arises. It follows then that when people make us angry, they are giving us a chance to see where we are at and to put our knowledge to use and increase our patience. Also, contemplate the fact that death could happen at any time. So realize that it is senseless to cling to differences with people. Dying with unresolved anger creates havoc in your mind and makes a peaceful death impossible. The other person could die at any time too. How would you feel if this happened before you're able to clear up the problems between you? You, the other person, and your interaction will all definitely come to an end. Seen in this light, are the problems really so important? Are they worth the anguish and unhappiness that they cause? Having gained some control over your anger through any one of these methods, or all of them, you can also work on developing loving kindness. You can do this by visualizing in front of you the person who makes you angry and making a special effort to actually reverse your feelings for them and sending them, having a wish for them that they may be well and happy and free of suffering, free of delusions. Sometimes it's also possible to resolve conflict by communicating with the other person. But here we have to be careful. First of all, we have to consider whether or not the other person would be open to the communication and if it would bring positive results. Second, we should check our motivation very carefully. Do we really want to straighten out our differences with this person and come to a better understanding? Or do we just want to express how irritated we are or win a victory? If we start discussing the problem with a desire to hurt